Imagine you're a dedicated doctor, summoned in the middle of a brutal blizzard to save a patient's life. You arrive, ready to heal, but the house is cold, the family is silent, and you slowly realize that this is no ordinary medical emergency. You aren't being treated as a doctor anymore. You are being treated as a sacrifice. Welcome to the Dupin Files. Today we unseal a case file that operates entirely on the logic of a nightmare, a place where time is elastic, the blizzard never ends, and the rules of cause and effect have been replaced by a sense of mounting, inevitable failure. We are investigating A Country Doctor by Franz Kafka. It is the story of a man who answers a desperate call for help, only to find himself trapped in a cycle where he is expected to be a savior, a saint, and a casualty all at once. The snow is rising. The horses are waiting. Let's open the file.
I was in great difficulty. An urgent journey was facing me. A seriously ill man was waiting for me in a village 10 miles distant. A severe snowstorm filled the space between me and him. I had a carriage, a light one, with large wheels, entirely suitable for our country roads. Wrapped up in furs, with the bag of instruments in my hand, I was already standing in the courtyard, ready for the journey. But the horse was missing. The horse. My own horse had died the previous night as a result of overexertion in this icy winter. My servant girl was at that very moment running around the village to see if she could borrow a horse, but it was hopeless. I knew that, and I stood there, useless, increasingly covered with snow, becoming all the time more immobile. The girl appeared at the gate, alone. She was swinging the lantern. Of course, who is now going to lend his horse for such a journey? I walked once again across the courtyard. I couldn't see what to do. Distracted and tormented, I kicked my foot against the cracked door of the pigsty, which had not been used for years. The door opened and banged to and fro on its hinges. A warmth and smell as if from horses came out. A dim stall lantern on a rope swayed inside. A man huddled down in the stall below showed his open blue-eyed face. "Shall I hitch up?" he asked, crawling out on all fours. I didn't know what to say and merely bent down to see what was still in the stall. The servant girl stood beside me. "One doesn't know the sorts of things one has stored in one's own house," she said, and we both laughed. "Hey, brother! Hey, sister!" the groom cried out. And 2 horses, powerful animals with strong flanks, shoved their way one behind the other, legs close to the bodies, lowering their well-formed heads like camels, and getting through the door space, which they completely filled, only through the powerful movements of their rumps. But right away they stood up straight, long-legged, with thick steaming bodies. I said, "Help him," and the girl obediently hurried to hand the wagon harness to the groom. But as soon as she was beside him, the groom puts his arms around her and pushes his face against her. She screams out and runs over to me. On the girl's cheek are red marks from 2 rows of teeth. "Oh, you brute!" I cry out in fury. "Do you want the whip?" But I immediately remember that he is a stranger, that I don't know where he comes from, and that he's helping me out of his own free will when everyone else is refusing to. As if he knows what I'm thinking, he takes no offense at my threat, but turns around to me once more, still busy with the horses. Then he says, "Climb in," and, in fact, everything is ready. I notice that I have never before traveled with such a beautiful team of horses, and I climb in happily. But I'll take the reins. You don't know the way, I say. Of course, he says, I'm not going with you. I'm staying with Rosa. No, she screams, and runs into the house with an accurate premonition of the inevitability of her fate. I see how in addition she chases down the corridor and through the rooms, putting out all the lights in order to make herself impossible to find. I'm coming with you, I say to the groom, or I'll give up the journey, no matter how urgent it is. It's not my intention to give you the girl as the price of the trip. Giddy up, he says, and claps his hands. The carriage is torn away like a piece of wood in a current. I still hear how the door of my house is breaking down and splitting apart under the groom's onslaught, and then my eyes and ears are filled with a roaring sound that overwhelms all my senses at once. But only for a moment. Then I am already there, as if the farmyard of my invalid opens up immediately in front of my courtyard gate. The horses stand quietly. The snowfall has stopped, moonlight all around. The sick man's parents rush out of the house, his sister behind them. They almost lift me out of the carriage. I get nothing from their confused talking. In the sick room, one can hardly breathe the air. The neglected cooking stove is smoking. I want to push open the window, but first I look at the sick man. Thin, without fever, not cold, not warm, with empty eyes, without shirt, the young man under the stuffed quilt heaves himself up, hangs around my throat, and whispers in my ear, "Doctor, let me die." I look around. No one has heard. The parents stand silently, leaning forward, and wait for my judgment. The sister has brought a stool for my handbag. I open the bag and look among my instruments. The young man constantly gropes at me from the bed to remind me of his request. I take some tweezers, test them in the candlelight, and put them back. Yes, I think blasphemously, in such cases the gods do help. They send the missing horse, even add a second one because it's urgent, and even throw in a groom as a bonus. Now, for the first time, I think once more about Rosa. What am I doing? How am I saving her? How do I pull her out from under this groom, 10 miles away from me, with uncontrollable horses in the front of my carriage? These horses, who have now somehow loosened their straps, are pushing open the window from the outside. I don't know how. Each one is sticking its head through a window and, unmoved by the crying of the family, is observing the invalid. I'll go back right away, I think, as if the horses were ordering me to journey back. But I allow the sister, who thinks I am in a daze because of the heat, to take off my fur coat. A glass of rum is prepared for me. The old man claps me on the shoulder. The sacrifice of his treasure justifies this familiarity. I shake my head. In the narrow circle of the old man's thinking, I was not well. That's the only reason I refuse to drink. The mother stands by the bed and entices me over. I follow, and as a horse neighs loudly at the ceiling, lay my head on the young man's chest, which trembles under my wet beard. That confirms what I know. The young man is healthy. His circulation is a little off, saturated with coffee by his caring mother, but he's healthy, and best pushed out of bed with a shove. I'm no improver of the world, and let him lie there. I'm employed by the district and do my duty to the full, right to the point where it's almost too much. Badly paid, but I'm generous and ready to help the poor. I still have to look after Rosa, and then the young man may have his way, and I want to die too. What am I doing here in this endless winter? My horse is dead, and there's no one in the village who'll lend me his. I have to drag my team out of the pigsty. If they hadn't happened to be horses, I'd have had to travel with pigs. That's the way it is, and I nod to the family. They know nothing about it, and if they did know, they wouldn't believe it. Incidentally, it's easy to write prescriptions, but difficult to come to an understanding with people. Now at this point, my visit might have come to an end. They have once more called for my help unnecessarily. I'm used to that. With the help of my night bell, the entire region torments me. But that this time I had to sacrifice Rosa as well. This beautiful girl who lives in my house all year long and whom I scarcely notice. This sacrifice is too great, and I must somehow in my own head subtly rationalize it away for the moment, in order to not leave this family who cannot, even with their best will, give me Rosa back again. But as I'm closing up my bag and calling for my fur coat, the family is standing together, the father sniffing the glass of rum in his hand, the mother probably disappointed in me. What more do these people really expect? Tearfully biting her lips, and the sister flapping a very bloody hand towel. I am somehow ready, in the circumstances, to concede that the young man is perhaps nonetheless sick. I go to him. He smiles up at me as if I was bringing him the most nourishing kind of soup. Ah, now both horses are whinnying. The noise is probably supposed to come from higher regions in order to illuminate my examination. And now I find out that yes, indeed, the young man is ill. On his right side, in the region of the hip, a wound the size of the palm of one's hand has opened up. Rose-colored, in many different shadings, dark in the depths, brighter on the edges, delicately grained with uneven patches of blood, open to the light like a mining pit. That's what it looks like from a distance. Close up, a complication is apparent. Who can look at that without whistling softly? Worms, as thick and long as my little finger, themselves rose-colored and also spattered with blood, are wriggling their white bodies with many limbs from their stronghold in the inner of the wound towards the light. Poor young man, there's no helping you. I have found out your great wound. You are dying from this flower on your side. The family is happy. They see me doing something. The sister says that to the mother. The mother tells the father. The father tells a few guests who are coming in on tiptoe through the moonlight of the open door, balancing themselves with outstretched arms. "Will you save me?" whispers the young man, sobbing, quite blinded by the life inside his wound. That's how people are in my region, always demanding the impossible from the doctor. They have lost the old faith. The priest sits at home and tears his religious robes to pieces one after another. But the doctor is supposed to achieve everything with his delicate surgeon's hand. Well, it's what they like to think. I have not offered myself. If they use me for sacred purposes, I let that happen to me as well. What more do I want? An old country doctor, robbed of my servant girl. And they come, the family and the village elders, and are taking my clothes off. A choir of school children with the teacher at the head stands in front of the house and sings an extremely simple melody with the words, "Take his clothes off, then he'll heal. And if he doesn't cure, then kill him. It's only a doctor. It's only a doctor." Then I am stripped of my clothes, and with my fingers in my beard and my head tilted to one side, I look at the people quietly. I am completely calm and clear about everything, and stay that way too, although it is not helping me at all. For they are now taking me by the head and feet and dragging me into the bed. They lay me against the wall on the side of the wound. Then they all go out of the room. The door is shut. The singing stops. Clouds move in front of the moon. The bedclothes lie warmly around me. In the open space of the windows, the horses' heads sway like shadows. Do you know, I hear someone saying in my ear, "My confidence in you is very small. You were only shaken out from somewhere. You don't come on your own feet. Instead of helping, you give me less room on my deathbed. The best thing would be if I scratch your eyes out." Right, I say. It's a disgrace. But now I'm a doctor. What am I supposed to do? Believe me, things are not easy for me either. Should I be satisfied with this excuse? Alas, I'll probably have to be. I always have to make do. I came into the world with a beautiful wound. That was all I was furnished with. Young friend, I say, your mistake is that you have no perspective. I've already been in all the sick rooms far and wide, and I tell you your wound is not so bad, made in a tight corner with 2 blows from an axe. Many people offer their side and hardly hear the axe in the forest, to say nothing of the fact that it's coming closer to them. Is that really so, or are you deceiving me in my fever? It is truly so. Take the word of honor of a medical doctor. He took my word and grew still. But now it was time to think about my escape. The horses were still standing loyally in their place. Clothes, fur coat, and bag were quickly gathered up. I didn't want to delay by getting dressed. If the horses rushed as they had on the journey out, I should in fact be springing out of that bed into my own, as it were. One horse obediently pulled back from the window. I threw the bundle into the carriage. The fur coat flew too far and was caught on a hook by only one arm. Good enough. I swung myself up onto the horse, the reins dragging loosely, one horse barely harnessed to the other, the carriage swaying behind, last of all the fur coat in the snow. "Giddy up," I said. But there was no giddying up about it. We dragged slowly through the snowy desert like old men. For a long time the fresh but inaccurate singing of the children resounded behind us. "Enjoy yourselves, you patients. The doctor's laid in bed with you." I'll never come home at this rate. My flourishing practice is lost. A successor is robbing me, but to no avail, for he cannot replace me. In my house, the disgusting groom is wreaking havoc. Rosa is his victim. I will not think it through. Naked, abandoned to the frost of this unhappy age, with an earthly carriage and unearthly horses, I drive around by myself, an old man. My fur coat hangs behind the wagon, but I cannot reach it, and no one from the nimble rabble of patients lifts a finger. Betrayed, betrayed. Once one responds to a false alarm on the night bell, there's no making it good again. Not ever.
That is the sound of a house call to nowhere. A Country Doctor, published in 1919, is one of Franz Kafka's most nightmarish and claustrophobic entries in our archive. It operates on pure dream logic, where space and time are elastic, and where the rules of cause and effect are replaced by a sense of inevitable mounting failure. Kafka suggests that the professional helper, the doctor, the teacher, the leader, is often just as trapped as the people they are trying to save. We have to analyze the fatal trade-off at the very beginning of the story. The doctor's horse is dead, and he is stranded. Suddenly, a mysterious predatory stableman emerges from a literal pigsty, providing two unearthly horses. But the price of these horses is the doctor's servant, Rosa. From a Dupin perspective, this is the ultimate professional failure. The doctor chooses his duty over his personal responsibility to protect his own home. He is a man who sold his peace of mind for a professional tool. The patient's wound is a masterpiece of Kafkaesque paradox. It is a blossom the size of a dinner plate, filled with wriggling white worms. It is both a death sentence and a work of art.
The doctor, representing the limits of 19th century science and reason, is completely powerless against it. He realizes that the boy's condition isn't biological, it's existential. In this universe, the doctor is no longer a healer. He is merely a witness to an inevitable decay that no medicine can touch. The climax is truly bizarre, yet deeply symbolic. The villagers and the boy's family strip the doctor naked and force him into bed with the dying patient, while a choir of children sings a threatening song outside. This represents the ultimate demand the public places on the professional. They don't want his skill, they want his magic. By stripping him, Kafka shows the profound vulnerability of the professional class. When the tools of the trade fail, the public demands the person's very skin. The doctor is no longer a man with a medical bag. He is a naked victim of his own reputation. We must also look at the biographical weight of this story. Kafka dedicated this collection to his father, Hermann Kafka. The stableman is often interpreted as a manifestation of the raw, aggressive, and pigsty energy that Franz felt his father possessed, a force that the doctor, Franz, could never control. Kafka was also struggling with the early stages of tuberculosis when he wrote this. He knew his own body held its own unhealable wound.
Today, we see this story reflected in the burnout of the caretaker. We live in a world where we expect our experts, doctors, nurses, teachers, to be superhuman. We demand that they sacrifice their sleep and their mental health to solve problems that are often beyond their control. Like the doctor, many professionals today feel naked before a public that expects miracles. We provide them with supernatural horses, technology, and 24/7 connectivity, but we don't realize those horses are dragging them into a freezing void between home and the office. I leave you with a question for the archive. The story ends with the doctor riding naked through the snowy night on the back of the unearthly horses. He is lost. He can never reach home, and he can never fix the wound. Was the doctor's mistake the fact that he answered the call, or the fact that he tried to be more than a man? Should he have stayed to fight the groom and save Rosa, even if it meant failing his duty? Or is the country doctor a victim of a universe where you're damned if you help and destroyed if you don't?
The public record for this case is now closed. If you enjoyed this investigation, please subscribe to help support the project. But remember, there are many more cases buried in the dark. and not every file makes it to the public feed. To unlock the complete ad-free archive, gain access to exclusive deep dive investigations, and support the project, visit dupinfiles.art. The link is in the description. Thank you for listening, and watch out for the pigs.